Chapter 40. Secrets Unraveled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Shutong left along with the large cat. He said he would teach Qing Chen but never specified what exactly that was. But Lin Xiaoxiao, who had been with his boss for a long time, understood that his boss was in a good mood right now. In fact, a very, very good mood. Li Shutong had yet to select a successor to his position as the knight's leader. He never said anything about it, but Lin Xiaoxiao saw how he tried to test one person after another, yet time after time they failed. Lin Xiaoxiao knew that his boss was worried. The path of the leader was a difficult one, so much so that even he and Yiwan couldn't complete it. Qing Chen was completely soaked at this point. He was still panting as water dripped down his hair. The pain from waterboarding would be quite traumatic for the average person. "I'm honestly amazed," said Lin Xiaoxiao. "I'm not sure how you lasted 4 days in that room. I myself could only last 36 hours, and Yiwan only did a little better, 47 hours. A little." Yiwan glanced at him. "Fine, a lot. Are you happy now?" said Lin Xiaoxiao, sighed impatiently. Qing Chen's breathing returned to normal. "You got locked in the room too?" "Yeah," Lin Xiaoxiao nodded. "To others, it's torture, but for us, it's a test, a necessity. From the moment the boss locked you in that room, I knew that he wanted to choose you, but if you couldn't survive, he wouldn't mind seeing you die in there. The boss had witnessed far too many deaths. His heart has hardened because of it." Lin Xiaoxiao smiled and continued, "But no one will survive with a weak heart. That's simply the way the world works, so please don't blame him for that." Yiwan brought a soft, dark blue towel to Qing Chen and said, "It's a rare sight to see someone stay as calm as you while being waterboarded. Many pee their pants." It appeared that Yiwan used waterboarding on a regular basis. But now, he acknowledged Qing Chen. Lin Xiaoxiao came in holding a plate in his hands. On it was a bowl of rice, a serving of sweet and sour ribs, and a bowl of porridge. Qing Chen hesitated for a moment and took the bowl of porridge. Yiwan said to Lin Xiaoxiao, "I won. Now, you owe me 1,000 yuan." Qing Chen was startled. "You two are betting?" "That's right," said Lin Xiaoxiao, "your blood sugar is extremely low right now, so you must want something sweet first. My bet was that you will go for the sweet and sour ribs first." "But it's been 4 days since you've eaten," said Yiwan, "so as a smart person, you'll resist your cravings and select what's best for your body. I bet that someone who survived the room and waterboarding wouldn't be stupid enough to eat sweet and sour ribs first." Qing Chen savored the porridge slowly, feeling the warmth from it slowly seeping into his chilled body. All of the suffering he'd felt in the outer world seemed insignificant in comparison to what he'd been through in the last few days. When other people of his age were taking classes, dating, or playing video games, he had already begun a mysterious and new life. He didn't even know where he would end up. "So, you don't know you're from the Qing family, which is why you played chess with the boss to better your situation?" asked Lin Xiaoxiao abruptly. "Yeah," nodded Qing Chen. There was no point in hiding anything anymore. "So you have no true connections with the Qing family, right?" asked Lin Xiaoxiao again. "Yeah," Qing Chen reaffirmed. "Not bad," Lin Xiaoxiao said brightly, "the boss probably already considered this and chose to accept you." "Do not worry," Yiwan assured Qing Chen, "the boss, Lin Xiaoxiao, and I will keep the secret about your transmigration. We won't even tell Li Dongzi." Qing Chen felt a sense of relief. "Thank you, but who is Li Dongzi?" "Li Dongzi of the Han Group," Lin Xiaoxiao smiled. "The Han Group is an organization under the Knight's control. Our organization's influence is much stronger than you may believe. Looks like you don't know much about the outside. I'll get you caught up in the next few days." "Oh, Lu Guangyi is very loyal to you," Yiwan continued. "He fought hard for your sake and almost even attempted attacking the boss." Thank you for letting me know." Qing Chen nodded. "Do you know Lu Dezhu and Huang Qixin?" "Oh, and Jiang Sheng, the one that likes to curse." Lin Xiaoxiao asked. I saw Lu Dezhu and Huang Qixin before. We're just students in the same high school, so we don't know each other very well. Lin Xiaoxiao was taken aback. Hold up, you're simply a high school student in the outer world. At this point, he knew a little about the outer world, but if Qin Chen is just a regular student. Qin Chen's perseverance and self-control were well above those of a typical student. The outer world is a peaceful world in comparison to here. Qin Chen stated, there are no extraordinaries, mechanical limbs, nor gangs and organizations. Even regular people can go about their lives without the worry about it being taken away. That sounds like a fantastic place, exclaimed Lin Xiaoxiao. Qin Chen asked, where did you lock that person who was speaking a weird dialect? A few rooms down, do you need him? Lin Xiaoxiao asked. Can I ask him about something? Asked Qin Chen. Of course, Lin Xiaoxiao said while smiling, we are on the same team now, so you can do whatever you want. From now on, no one will stop you in prison 18. Qin Chen paused for a moment, then hung the towel over his neck and requested an e-reader before entering Jianxing's room. The metal door opened, and Yi Wan went in to control Jianxing first. This fellow earthling was around 30 years old. Jianxing yelled, you this bastard. I will. Before he could finish, Qin Chen showed what he wrote on the e-reader, and he stopped. Wide and narrow alley. A famous tourist attraction in Sichuan, Jianxing asked in disbelief, are you, from Earth? I'm here to ask you something, wrote Qin Chen, aren't you from Sichuan? How come you end up here? Do you live in Luo City? I am in Luo City for business. Just one day, I don't even know how I got taken here. Seeing that the person was also from Earth, Jianxing became more relaxed. What do you do for a living? Qin Chen wrote on the e-reader again. Ticket resale, Jianxing said, are you also from Luo City? Qin Chen, on the other hand, ignored his question and walked away. Yi Wan finally let go of Jianxing when he walked out the door. Seeing that the metal cell door closed again, Jianxing realized that the person from Earth had no intention of saving him, and began yelling once more. He was ready to start yelling again when he realized something wasn't quite right. Sure, that kid was from Earth, but how could he manage to wield so much authority here? Lin Xiaoxiao, the interrogator, and the other big man were both assisting that teenager. Have certain time travelers gained power in the inner world already? Outside, Lin Xiaoxiao looked at Qin Chen. This teen just went from starving in the dark room for days to waterboarding, and now he is still calmly interrogating another person. Chapter 41. Retirement Home Fighter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Countdown. 24:00. 00. Qin Chen, Yi Wan, and Lin Xiaoxiao walked into the unoccupied prison 18. It was the first time Qin Chen visited the prison after 9 o'clock, and he was astounded by its size and emptiness. In the open space, 4 robot guards watched motionlessly. The display on their faces was turned off as if they were sleeping as well. Qin Chen was sure that he and He Xiaoxiao were both right because Jianxing only appeared in prison 18 after visiting Luo City. Ednel.co. After transmigrating here, every transmigrator's life would begin anew starting from where he or she transmigrated. Yi Wan said, the day that the new group of transmigrators appeared we didn't take action immediately because we don't want others to make a connection between you and transmigration. We announced to the outside that you got placed in detention after trying to sneak up on the boss's ACE.005. Oh, how very thoughtful of you. Qin Chen understood that Li Shutong already considered all the possibilities when he was being considered to join the organization. It was just whether Qin Chen could pass the test or not. At that moment, somewhere in the prison came a dry, scratchy voice, Li Shutong, release my boss. Qin Chen was quite surprised, did you lock him up for 4 days? Yeah, or else he would start causing trouble again. If it wasn't because the boss admired his loyalty, the boss would have got rid of him by now, said Lin Xiaoxiao, but don't worry. He got food and water for the past 4 days. What did he do in the past? Have you researched that? Asked Qin Chen. I did, said Lin Xiaoxiao. He used to be a retirement home fighter in the Hellion Group, MNF, think of groups here as gangs, /MFN. Qin Chen's mouth dropped, retirement home, fighter. Right, you don't know about this, Lin Xiaoxiao nodded. The ordinary people of the inner world didn't have the habit of taking care of their older generation, so at around 60 years old, your child will send you into a retirement home and use your pension to do whatever they want. Then what's up with the fighters? To beat the other elderlies. Qin Chen was still puzzled. No, that, Lin Xiaoxiao wanted to laugh. The group would take protection money from the elderlies and let them select fighters depending on how much they pay. Then the fighters will pretend to be these old people's grandchildren, being used to scare away the other elderlies. That way, the old people that paid protection money would not have to worry about their safety inside a retirement home. These warriors even have a well-known ad campaign, Yiwan continued, Hellion Group Retirement Service, guaranteed to be faster and safer than your son. After all, if you die, we won't get our money, instead, your kid will get it all. Qin Chen hesitated, does this business actually work? It's quite popular, Lin Xiaoxiao nodded and said, at least enough to support an organization, but we, Heng Group, wouldn't handle such business. Now Qin Chen was curious why the Qin family would send him a retirement home fighter to assist him in the fight for the shadow. Qin Chen thought for a moment and said, can I go see him first? Of course. Lin Xiaoxiao brought Qin Chen to Lu Guanyi's cell, and the cell door opened after he waved at a camera next to it. But Lin Xiaoxiao and Yiwan didn't go in. They left room for Qin Chen to speak with Lu Guanyi privately. Lu Guanyi sat on the cold floor motionlessly. The food placed in front of him was barely eaten. He jumped up as the cell door opened, but when he saw Qin Chen, he cried, Boss, are you okay? Qin Chen smiled and answered, I'm okay. He sat down on Lu Guanyi's bed because he was still weak from not eating for so long. But how come you appear so thin? Lu Guanyi questioned, squatting next to him. Did they put you through any kind of torture? When Qin Yan comes to see you in a few days, I'll inform him of their wrongdoings. No need to tell Qin Yan about this, Qin Chen shook his head, I heard that you ran into some trouble with Li Shutong. Yeah, Lu Guanyi nodded, is it just for his ACE.005? What's this torture for? Didn't Guo Huchan also come after it? How come he wasn't punished? It must be because you are a shadow candidate, and he must want to do something with the Qin family very soon. Let's not talk about this again. We are in his territory after all, said Qin Chen. No, tomorrow I'll tear Li Shutong apart. Lu Guanyi said furiously. Alright, that's enough acting, Qin Chen said while holding back his laughter. Acting? I didn't act, Lu Guanyi hesitated. Qin Chen stared at him with a pair of clear eyes, until Lu Guanyi started feeling guilty about himself and sat down like a boy caught in the act of doing mischief. Even when this person got Qin family's military-grade mechanical limbs, he could still sense that this person was nothing but a servant. Qin Chen was quite impressed. He merely spent a few days with Lu Guanyi, and they'd never had a connection before. He felt that his observation abilities had increased after experiencing the pain of a lifetime. He could clearly tell that Lu Guanyi knew he wouldn't end up too beat up, so he was just pretending to be loyal. If he didn't do anything while Qin Chen disappeared, he would be forgotten. There was no such thing as love and loyalty without a reason. Qin Chen was very familiar with that. Lu Guanyi murmured quietly, looks like you saw through everything already. It's just how we lowly people survive. Qin Chen sighed, you don't have to gain my trust. I appreciate your efforts for the past few days, so don't worry. As long as you don't betray me, I won't use you as a chess piece. Lu Guanyi looked up in awe, really, boss? Yes, Qin Chen nodded. Qin Chen thought and said, there's something I have to mention though. You have to be more low-key while being here. Don't boss around like before. I heard from Qin Yen that the boss is a simple and kind man. He was certainly right. Lu Guanyi became very cooperative. Boss, what do you want me to improve? I will work my hardest to fix it. Qin Chen said, you can start by taking off the gold decorations on your mechanical arms. Be more natural. Yes. Lu Guanyi ripped off the gold strips decorated on his arms without another word. The gold strips were flat and long, much like a gold line. It was about 1 millimeter thick, 2 millimeters wide, and 10 or so centimeters long. The moment it was taken off, the mechanical arm that he had seemed to have dropped in quality. Qin Chen nodded and said, I'll keep these for you, and remember not to attract too much attention. Lu Guanyi didn't give it much thought, knowing that a member of the 5 most powerful families would never be short on cash. They create money out of thin air. Rest early, Qin Chen said as he grabbed the golden lines from Lu Guanyi's hands and stuffed them into his pockets. He then walked out of the cell. The teen held his sigh of relief until he left the cell. Qin Chen began to calculate. That was about 2 centimeters of gold cubed. The amount should be roughly 30 grams at room temperature, based on the density of 19.23. What is the current gold price in the outer world? Lin Xiaoxiao inquired. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Qin Chen remarked, yes, I have a plan, to reaffirm something. Chapter 42. Assassin, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Countdown. 40, 20. 00, Qin Chen walked out the metal cell doors like usual. When he stepped into the hallway, the prisoners around him all looked toward him in shock, as if unable to believe how he was able to miraculously disappear for 5 days and reappear. However, this time, he didn't walk across the hallway to cut the line but stayed where he was. He patiently waited for the female broadcast voice to tell the prisoners to head downstairs for breakfast. This made all the prisoners believe the rumor that they heard. The boy had pissed Li Shutong off and was sentenced to solitary confinement for 5 days, as well as torture. Surely, the teen must have lost his privileges in prison 18 as a result. Still, the other prisoners didn't dare to provoke him just yet, because they couldn't offend the Qin family like how Li Shutong could. During breakfast, Lu Guanyi and Qin Chen sat at a table far away from Li Shutong. Qin Chen ate very slowly and carefully, making sure that he had thoroughly chewed on the food before swallowing. He needed to pay extra attention since his stomach was still weak from the days of starvation. Qin Chen didn't speak a single word while eating. There seemed to be a clear line drawn between him and Li Shutong. As if a few days ago they were still buddies, and now, it was as if they were strangers. The other prisoners started gossiping about what might have happened. Could it be that Li Shutong and the Qin family ran into some conflicts? They even started guessing what might the forbidden item that Li Shutong was protecting be. What can be so valuable to let the teenagers be so anxious to see it? Right now, only Guo Huchan was still unaffected by Qin Chen's appearance. He got his plate of food and sat down next to Qin Chen while smiling as usual. He asked, what happened between you and Li Shutong? What made him punish you so badly? Qin Chen looked at him and said, are you afraid that you will anger Li Shutong as well by sitting next to me? Guo Huchan didn't seem to care at all. We, the Black Spades, aren't scared of anything, not to mention a tiny Li Shutong. Then what are you here for? Qin Chen seemed to be uninterested in talking to this muscular man, so he didn't even bother to look at Guo Huchan while talking. I'm different from those other people. Others might be interested in your family background, but I am impressed by your abilities. Guo Huchan said, I'm very serious about this. I want to invite you, a true warrior, to join us. Not interested, said Qin Chen as he stood up, tossing his empty plate toward Lu Guanyi to let him wash it. Then, he walked to the reading area alone. Just after taking 2 steps, his leg bent over and almost fell onto the floor. He was luckily able to grab onto the table just in time before he fell. Qin Chen got back on his feet and continued walking. Somehow, two prisoners soon started following behind him. The next moment, the weak Qin Chen suddenly turned and looked at the two people. The glance from the teenager came with intense power, seeing through what these two people were planning to do. The two prisoners stopped, but a second later, they both simultaneously took out a sharpened toothbrush from their pants pocket and charged toward Qin Chen. Qin Chen could clearly hear the hydraulic machinery in their legs working to their extreme, and he could even see steam coming out from their legs. It was not natural from mechanical limbs, but they somehow were able to pressurize parts of the mechanical limbs enough that the water droplets in the air were vaporized in an instant. But just as they leaped toward him, they also felt a sense of drowsiness and closed their eyes. Qin Chen stood where he was and leaned to one side, letting the two of them slide over past him and rolling more than 10 times before stopping. These two didn't get up, as they were already trapped inside Lin Xiaoxiao's nightmare. Qin Chen squatted down next to them and observed closely. Lu Guangyi, however, came over and first pulled out the two men's hind molars. The rest of the prisoners were stunned. Everything happened so quickly that they didn't even realize what was going on. They didn't know why the two prisoners would randomly start attacking Qin Chen and how they collapsed onto the floor. Lu Guangyi showed one of the teeth to Qin Chen, and there was a silver poison sac hidden in it. Qin Chen finally realized that the 3 dead assassins that he pulled out last time weren't here for Li Shuthong. Their target had been him for the whole time. These two people lying unconsciously on the ground came in 5 days ago, the same time when Jiansheng came. At day, everyone's attention was on Jiansheng, but even during the chaos, Jiansheng still noticed something odd with these two prisoners. At first, he didn't think much, but when he was alone in the room, Qin Chen refreshed everything in his memory. That was why he gave them an opportunity, a moment when he looked weak and alone. Then, he would know who these assassins came for. If they didn't attack him, he would point them out, and if they attacked, the results would be obvious. The first group of assassins came in with him. So, if it wasn't because he was able to find Li Shuthong on his first day here, he would have been long dead. All assassins that came here seemed to have gotten strict orders to eliminate him at all costs. Who would it be? Another shadow candidate. Qin Chen was sure, but that was very likely. Looks like he underestimated the cruelty of the fight for the shadow. The shadow, Qing family's professional at dealing with all the dirty work, just be able to use the most obscure tactics. This was a race of 9 at midnight. It wasn't a matter of who was the most skilled, but instead to see who was the most ruthless and cold-blooded. Soon, 4 robotic guards marched in. They walked past Qin Chen and took the 2 assassins away. Qin Chen knew that they would have to face the same torture that he experienced. "Boss, now what?" asked Lu Guangyi. "Wait for them to open their mouths," Qin Chen said as he glanced at Lin Xiaoxiao. Then, he continued toward the reading area. That night, Prison 18 returned to its peacefulness. When Qin Chen was thinking about what happened today, his cell door opened by itself. He wasn't surprised and went out quietly. Li Shuthong, Yi Wan, and Yi Wan were all waiting for him downstairs. This was what they had planned. Li Shuthong didn't want anyone else to know that he would be teaching Qin Chen, so when all other prisoners were forced to go back to their cells after 9, Li Shuthong got enough time to learn how to become an extraordinary. Li Shuthong looked at Qin Chen and asked, "Do you have any questions for me? We can deal with some things before today's lesson." "Who will kill me?" asked Qin Chen. "We don't know yet," answered Lin Xiaoxiao. "They are 2 stubborn men, who didn't say a thing even inside my nightmare. They are arrested for legitimate reasons, so there's no way to find out who sent them in here. Their mechanical limbs have also been modified to avoid tracing them to their manufactured location. But don't worry, give me 7 days, and I'll give you an answer." "Thank you." Qin Chen nodded. Li Shutong thought about it and said, it's probably one of them of the youngest generation competing for the position as shadow. It'll only get more dangerous, so be prepared mentally. Why does everyone want to be the shadow? Qing Chen was confused, is it worth one's life over it? Li Shutong smiled and said, that's because since a long time ago, only shadows will be eligible to become family head in the Qing family. Chapter 43. Breathing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Only shadows can become the family head. Qing Chen was puzzled. He still didn't have a clear understanding of the fight for the shadow yet, and only pretended to know a lot based on the few questions he was able to ask beforehand. Now, he could finally get some answers to those questions. He was free to ask. When Li Shutong realized he wasn't from the inner world, he began lecturing like a schoolteacher. It was said that the Qing family existed since the last era. 1 Possibly a reference to the First Order. At that time, the shadow was only a minor, disposable role in the Qing family corporation, and the position wasn't as attractive as it is today. Then, after a certain shadow of the Qing family rose to the position of family leader, he established some new laws. He created a law that stated, all future family heads must be former shadows, who would have done the dirtiest of all jobs in the world. Anyone who had been the shadow would be treasured and respected by the family. Qing Chen asked, how many shadows are there? Li Shutong answered, one will be selected every 10 years or so, and about every one of 10 shadows will later become the family head. He continued, nowadays, medical technologies have gotten to a terrifying extent. Some family heads can live for more than 150 years. So, when the family head retires, he or she will select one most qualified person from the past shadows. Then, what about the others? Asked Qing Chen. They must give up their power, said Li Shutong, but they can live the rest of their lives in peace and luxury. When you get to be the shadow, you basically got a free pass from any death penalty. This rule seems a little strange to me. If that family head's once a shadow, then he must know how torturous the selection process must be. How come he still made such a rule? Qing Chen asked. Oh, the rule to have 9 people to compete was not made by him but by his son. That was because his son selected multiple shadows and found them all to be trash, so he decided to hold a competition that will eliminate anyone who might be unqualified. Li Shutong explained. His dad didn't stop him? Asked Qing Chen. At first, the fight for the shadow was simply a series of tasks. The winner would be the person who completes the most tasks in the shortest amount of time, Li Shutong explained, but after thousands of years, the winner became the one who lives. Qing Chen nodded. That makes more sense. The regulations devised by the forefathers were intended for the best of the best, but as time passed, the rules began to fall out of favor. Because people's views change, nothing could stay the same. After that, the fight for the shadow started to become what it is now. Li Shutong smiled and said, perhaps all the family heads of the Qing family understood that if the Qing family doesn't fight like a beast, then it will die out eventually in the inner world. That's true, Qing Chen nodded, so, I have to be careful since all 9 of the shadow candidates want to eliminate each other. Honestly, this round is progressing faster than I thought, Li Shutong added, since the candidates in previous rounds have tended to be more conservative at the beginning. Unless someone has previously detected risks as a result of your presence. Is it because I'm too close to you? Qing Chen said softly, no, there is no way. The person arranged for the assassins before we even met. Don't worry about it for now. The answer will reveal itself as time goes on, said Li Shutong. Can I step out from the fight for the shadow? Will there be any conflicts if I am in the Qing family and the knights at the same time? Asked Qing Chen. Nope, Li Shutong shook his head, but it'll be the best if you don't let people know that you have joined the knights. Do you see how I have to stay here? Every night from now on, I'll teach you everything you need to know, and every morning, just do as you did today. Also, because you still don't comprehend the genuine benefits of being a shadow, I would advise against you leaving the fight for the shadow. Okay, Qing Chen nodded. He wasn't scared, so if Li Shutong told him not to, then he wouldn't mind playing with the other candidates for a while. Looking at the empty prison 18, Qing Chen felt as if he was truly free in here. Li Shutong sat down on the floor with his leg crossed, and the large cat cuddled next to him, soon falling asleep. Qing Chen also followed him and sat down. "Do you have any more questions?" asked Li Shutong. "I saw that the standard weapon in the inner world is still firearms. Are there any more powerful weapons?" asked Qing Chen. "Yes, but there aren't many," said Li Shutong. "There are EMP hand grenades that specialize in disabling mechanical limbs, and some others that can be mounted onto mechanical limbs, but firearms are still a standard when it comes to military and company forces." Qing Chen asked, "The inner world supposedly is much more advanced than the outer world, but how come the standard weapons are still the same?" Li Shutong smiled and said, "Because a bullet is enough to kill a person." Qing Chen understood now. People are still using it simply because it's cost-effective and does its job well. Does its job well is very important. He saw a blog online a few days ago of someone writing about how mirrors of the inner world were not much different, other than that it can defog itself. That was because the job of a mirror was simply to reflect light and nothing else. More technologically advanced did not mean that the everyday items had to be more complicated. Alright, enough of these side talks. Time for what you really need to learn, said Li Shutong. "The longest path of all shortcuts, right?" asked Qing Chen. "Yep," Li Shutong nodded, "give me your right hand." Qing Chen held out his right hand, and Li Shutong grabbed onto his wrist. At that moment, he felt as if his breathing paused. A powerful force took over his breathing patterns and even the speed of his blood flow. Li Shutong's touch was much like a lock. The next moment, Li Shutong's breathing changed. Qing Chen opened his eyes and saw that a stream of white smoke came out from Li Shutong's mouth, then some fire pattern started extending from Li Shutong's ears to the rest of his face. Qing Chen was shocked. Everything that happened just now was scientifically impossible. Before he could make any reactions, Qing Chen felt that his breathing was also forced to change. His heart rate and breathing were all different from usual. Qing Chen could feel that every breath he took was mixed with fire, rolling down his throat. It spread across every air sac in his lungs. The terrifying temperature spread across his body, and he could feel that his organs were being ripped apart. This heat sensation didn't come from actual temperature but from an illusion caused by extreme pain. Slowly, the fire patterns also appeared on Qing Chen's cheeks, and the pain extended with the pattern into his brain. He wanted to take his hand back from Li Shutong's tight grab, but Yi Wan, who was standing beside him, said, "Hold it there." Qing Chen became more relaxed. He didn't scream or struggle in any way. Just like how he was yesterday when he was waterboarded. Lin Xiaoxiao said, "Do you remember what I first told you? Great suffering begets great fortune." Chapter 44. Facing pain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The burning sensation, the boiling blood, and the thundering heartbeats. Qing Chen felt as if the world was collapsing, and his life was about to start burning along with it. But soon, the burning sensation gradually started to disappear. With the breathing, the fire patterns on his cheeks were still there, just like Li Shutong, but the air that he was breathing in turned refreshing and not painful. Lin Xiaoxiao reminded him by his side, "Guard your consciousness. Those forgotten pain would quickly sweep back into your mind, all the pain you had experienced, everything. That moment, if you couldn't get past this point, no one could help you." Qing Chen's mind tightened because the pain that Lin Xiaoxiao mentioned just then were pouring into his brain. When he first started to live alone, he accidentally cut his finger while trying to cook. He could remember every little detail as the sharp edge of the knife ripped open the skin. When he was waterboarded, the ice-cold water drifted into his lungs, taking roots in there as if it was a poisonous ivy. In the darkroom, the pain of thirst repeatedly hit him second after second. And the night before his mom left. Then the shadow left with a piece of luggage under the setting sun. All these painful memories came rushing in like a wave on ocean water, crashing onto cliffs with all its might. The waves were like knives traveling through the air, emitting empty cries and screams. Qing Chen closed his eyes like he did when he was waterboarded. He then sank into an infinite abyss of darkness. Inside came a very gentle voice, "Come with Mom." Qing Chen replied, "I had already walked this far all by myself, and as for the rest, I will walk it myself as well." Almost instantly, he opened his eyes up again. No wonder Li Shuang would say that he wouldn't be able to pass if he didn't survive the previous test. It was all to prepare for this moment. Qing Chen's breathing was now like a ball of fire. That ball of fire seemed to have instantly burned away all his past experiences, and from now on, he had made his own choice. He wouldn't need regret nor turn back. The rest of his life was in front of him. Beside him, Yi Wan and Lin Xiaoxiao's expressions all had some changes. They looked into each other's eyes and thought about the same thing. They couldn't believe that Qing Chen could still maintain his consciousness even until now. They also experienced such pain and knew exactly how it felt like when a lifetime's worth of pain was rushed to one's mind and collapsed. Only those who had faced every pain in their lives with indifference would step across that abyss of self-questioning. One had to give up his past and move on to the future. Lin Xiaoxiao murmured, maybe because of Qing Chen's memory, so he probably never forgot about this pain in the first place. Human brains had their protection mechanisms, allowing you to forget certain events so that you could move on in life. But the exact talent that gave Qing Chen infinite memory also gave him infinite pain. Year after year, he was already used to remembering these events. Qing Chen was never a spoiled child raised in a greenhouse. From a long time ago, he was already a believer in pain. So, that abyss, he had already stepped over it. Li Shuang slowly released his palm and exclaimed, "This step went much smoother than I anticipated." For some reason, after knowing about what his teenager had, he felt sympathetic toward the boy. No one knew what condition he was in during the years. When the others were admiring him of his talents, they never thought about the sufferings that came along with it. The fire patterns on Qing Chen's face started to fade away, and he asked, "What does this breathing technique do?" The reason he asked this was because he didn't feel any difference in his body from when he started. He only felt refreshed and relaxed. The feeling of weakness from the past 4 days of starvation quickly disappeared. "This is just an assisting technique," said Li Shuang. "This breathing technique's core was to understand its unique breathing pattern. You probably couldn't get used to it just yet, but after I gild you a few more times, you will eventually." As soon as Li Shuang said so, he saw that the fire patterns on Qing Chen's cheeks didn't fade away but started extending. He smiled bitterly and said, "I forgot that you can instantly remember the breathing pattern with your incredible memory." It had to be said that Li Shuang felt truly useless. When his teacher taught him, it took more than 40 tries before he could barely start on his own. Not even one mistake was allowed in this process. But this teenager in front of him did it with just one try. Li Shuang changed the topic and said, "Well, since I don't have to spend any more time on this one, then let's get to the succession of the nights. We'll talk about the uses of this breathing technique later." When the Knights just got funded, the founder found out about the secrets of genetic locks. According to his conclusion, when a human finishes 8 of the life and death stages, the genetic locks would be opened by itself. Li Shuang continued, "At first, you would only become a member of the Knights after finishing all 8 of them. By then, you would have opened your genetic lock and would no longer be considered among the ordinary." There were a lot of Knights back then. They too survived the cataclysm and started this new era with the other surviving humans. But later, Knights started becoming rarer to see. Not because there was no one capable, but because one of the life and death stages has to be done in the ocean. However, the entire ocean had long become a forbidden land. Before, the chances of surviving the ocean would be 1 out of 10, but now, it is 0 out of 10. Without the last life and death stage, it is impossible to open the genetic lock. The talented knight's leader at that time, Qin Sheng, invented the new breathing technique to assist with the process, and people later found out that if the technique is used when challenging any of the life and death stages, one will be able to open a part of the genetic lock. So it is no longer a need to complete all 8 before opening. Although a knight who had only completed one life and death stage would be incomparable to a knight that finished all 8 when most people finished just 6, they already were more powerful than the knights of the older generation. With the leveling system of the inner world, A, B, C, D, E, F, one would be considered level A after completing the 6th. Qin Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect here to have a leveling system for the extraordinaries. He asked suddenly, "Teacher, then which level are you?" Yi Wan answered, "Boss is on level S." Because Li Shutong already finished 7 life and death stages, just missing the final one. But what makes this breathing technique so wonderful that it could assist with opening the genetic locks? Asked Qin Chen. He was excited because he already touched the gateway to the secrets of the inner world, but he was still a little confused. "You should know about endorphins, right?" asked Li Shutong. Although Qin Chen never forgot anything, he never dug deep into this area of study, so he just said what he found in his memory. Just like dopamine, it creates a sense of pleasure in human bodies, but it is also slightly different. After winning a lottery or playing a game, the body would produce dopamine, but the sense of pleasure and satisfaction from sports and exercise would be from endorphins. Li Shutong shook his head. That's how those unprofessional would explain. Dopamine couldn't bring pleasure directly to people, as it is just a medium for neurotransmission. Serotonin is the real transmitter of happiness. In simple terms, dopamine does provide pleasure, but you have to understand that this pleasure is not true happiness. It is just a desire for more from addiction. Then what about endorphins? Asked Qin Chen. Endorphins is a pleasure substance that only comes after pain. It combines with the morphine receptors in your body and acts as a natural painkiller, but that is just its core use, explained Li Shutong. Ancestor Qin Sheng spent years of careful examination and found that after the knights finished any of the life and death stages, large amounts of endorphins would be secreted. So he believed that dopamine was a poison that keeps people in illusion, and endorphins was the key to open the genetic locks. That's why the knights got one more tenet. Great suffering begets great fortune. Chapter 45. The Forbidden Item. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing about the knight's history, Qin Chen came to realize just how much the previous generations had done to cut down the troubles for the future generations. Because they cannot go into the oceans anymore, they could no longer complete the 8th life and death stage, so they had to create a new path for themselves. Qin Chen asked, "What does the breathing technique have to do with endorphins? How come it allows a knight to break through the genetic locks easier?" The breathing technique could help you secrete endorphins the instant after you feel pain. It is a technique that grants you better control of your body. With the help of the breathing technique, it will only take you 3 months to finish while others may take a few years, Li Shutong said. So when you use the breathing technique to finish a life and death stage, you will have an abnormally high level of endorphins in your body. What other effects does it have? Asked Qin Chen. When you finish the first life and death stage, I'll tell you what else it can do, because it's useless for you to know now. Li Shutong said. Can't I just inject endorphins directly? Asked Qin Chen. He believed that with the current technologies in the inner world, there should be ways to harvest and inject endorphins. Li Shutong smiled and said, "This is the time that even love can be achieved artificially with phenylethylamine core, so please understand that outside forces will not do you any good in this case." There had been ancestors that tried to use injected endorphins instead of the breathing technique, but the person wasn't about to unlock the genetic lock after completing the life and death stage. We can understand the science behind endorphins, but not the science behind genetic locks. Even today, the genetic locks to every knight are sacred and untouchable. We can only use the dumbest of all methods and follow the paths left from our ancestors. This, after all, is the longest of all shortcuts. The only path to the sacred temple is to cultivate the hard way. Okay, I'll remember, said Qin Chen. Then what happens after I finish all 8 of the life and death stages with the assistance of the breathing technique? That's a pointless question. Li Shutong shook his head. It's not, said Qin Chen as he looked at Li Shutong, because there are no forbidden lands in the outer world. For the first time, he saw a look of surprise on Li Shutong's face. Before, this person's face had always been so confident and uncaring. But upon hearing this, his demeanor changed. Yes, your world indeed never had any extraordinary, so of course there won't be any forbidden lands, said Li Shutong while still being a little shocked, so you can possibly finish all your life and death stages there. What are the forbidden lands and forbidden items? Qin Chen finally asked what he wanted to know the most. Yi Wan saw that his boss was thinking about other problems, so he answered, forbidden items are from the forbidden lands, and they are both from the same source. The extraordinaries. The extraordinaries, asked Qin Chen. Yes, Lin Xiaoxiao said, after an extraordinary person dies, his powerful blood would seep into the soil and incubate the creatures there, like ants, centipedes, scorpions, and any other insects. It can also fertilize the plants and microorganisms there. Then, these death land organisms would evolve, and the death land would become a forbidden land. The oceans in the inner world are so terrifying because the Kashima one, it's a typical Japanese last name, so I used the Japanese pronunciation here. In Chinese, it's pronounced Ludao. Corporation researchers thought that there was once a super-evolved whale that passed away due to old age in the ocean, and its body nourished the entire ocean. What did they find out? Asked Qin Chen. The Kashima family used a remote-controlled submarine to search the ocean, testing if it's possible to find another continent. Before it was destroyed by ocean creatures, its cameras captured a large whale skeleton, Lin Xiaoxiao explained. The exploration was done hundreds of years ago, and it only got released to the public in the recent decades. Qin Chen asked curiously, so how large exactly was it? Lin Xiaoxiao didn't know how this, it's just fucking huge. Come on, Qin Chen's face darkened, speak properly. Even when using a wide-angle lens camera on the submarine, it could barely capture the skull from a 300-meter distance, explained Lin Xiaoxiao. Qin Chen exclaimed, that is fucking huge. From that point on, humans gave up on exploring the oceans. Then what about the forbidden items? Asked Qin Chen. A forbidden item is something related to an extraordinary's life, and it appears decades or centuries after the death of the extraordinary, explained Lin Xiaoxiao. Can you name some examples? Asked Qin Chen. Some forbidden items are direct results of the extraordinary's powers. For example, there is a 6-car train running on the wasteland near City 16. Very few people know where it's going. It will occasionally stop, and if you throw a gold coin into the first car, it can bring you to anywhere you want, and it wouldn't stop until it reaches there. A gold coin. Yeah, its first car is filled with gold coins, as many organizations like to use it to smuggle goods, even though finding it is a challenge too. Then what if someone tries to steal its gold coins? Asked Qin Chen. It will close its doors and trap you inside until you die. That's also why the last car is filled with skeletons. Lin Xiaoxiao laughed, so don't try to steal from it when you meet it one day. Qin Chen nodded. There are also some forbidden items that have no apparent correlation to the person it was from, just an object with an infinite lifetime. Lin Xiaoxiao continued, if you happen to tame it, then it would serve you. What if there's no way to tame it? Then it would be very dangerous. At this moment, Li Shutong seemed to have thought through some things and stood up. Facing these forbidden items, we are like hunters in a forest with a spear in one hand, knowing that there are beasts of all kinds in there and every beast is different. We already categorized these beasts and found some general rules while fighting them. We know which ones we can beat and which ones we must avoid. Now that there are too many beasts, a specialized group of hunters is needed, so here came the taboo tribunal. They not only were enemies with the beasts but also those who tamed the beasts. They would not only tame the forbidden items, but also the extraordinaries who might cause forbidden items to appear. They are preventing that one day the beasts will wipe out humanity. Qin Chen became a little thoughtful after hearing so. Li Shutong looked at him and said, "From now on, Yi Wan will start teaching you combat techniques, training your physical strength, and familiarize you with the techniques to the 8 challenges you will face. I'm envious of you that you are born in the outer world, but that's not it. The important part is that you might one day change this world. Get started, I can't wait to see that day." The Li Shutong left. Prison 18 seemed a little creepy at night, but Qin Chen left that it was more pleasant than the day. He liked it here. He was freer here in a prison than anywhere else in the world. Chapter 46. Visitors, you are listening at novelfull.audio. The training began without warning. In the gym area, Yi Wan took out a thermal lunchbox. The lunchbox had an LED screen on it, showing the temperature and options to warm, add moisture, air fry, and cook. Qin Chen thought, isn't that just a wireless rice cooker? Looks like the prisons were equipped with cloud towers as well, so the devices can charge wirelessly at all times. Yi Wan opened his lunchbox, inside were cleanly cut beef chops. "Finish them," said Yi Wan. "Aren't we going to train?" "Won't it be bad if we train right after I finish eating?" asked Qin Chen. "Your body will use up more energy than you think when using the breathing technique. If you don't eat enough, your body will collapse," Yi Wan explained. Qin Chen saw how astonishing this breathing strategy was. He asked abruptly, "Hold up, when I'm utilizing the breathing strategy, I feel that there is an obscure stream of air going through my body. It doesn't seem to be doing anything useful to my body and doesn't have any particular function, but I'm able to control it." Yi Wan shook his head and said, "I don't know much about that, you can ask the boss later." Okay, Qin Chen didn't continue with more questions. The next morning. Countdown. 20.20.00 Lin Xiaoxiao sat next to the table and asked Yi Wan, "How's the progress last night?" Normally people won't last long during the first few training sessions. How long did he last? Yi Wan glanced at him and said, "Full load, from 11 last night to 3 in the morning." Wait, he doesn't seem to have trained before, right? And he could still last until 3. Lin Xiaoxiao was a little stunned. "Mom Yi, you don't want to train him to death, don't you? What are you worrying about? He has the breathing technique." Yi Wan shook his head and said, "I also fed him a whole box full of beef, and he probably burnt through them all during the training. The boss gave me instructions. Don't worry about it, I know when to stop." Normal people wouldn't even last even close to that long during their first training, and might even get rhabdomyolysis. Even with the breathing technique, he still will get tired, murmured Lin Xiaoxiao. Yi Wan shook his head again. He seems to be able to split apart his nervous system, only going after his goal and not caring about how his body is doing. I've only witnessed this once before. If he is born here, he probably would have been an awakener. That's good in a way. If he becomes an awakener, he will no longer be an ordinary person and can't follow the boss's path, said Lin Xiaoxiao. At this time, breakfast time arrived for prison 18. The metal doors opened one after the other, and the prisoners lined up to come down one by one. Qin Chen stood there in line as if he still didn't have any privileges. Lin Xiaoxiao glanced at Qin Chen and saw that he was as energetic as ever, with no signs of being starved for 4 days just a moment ago. He turned to Li Shutong and asked, "Boss, is that breathing technique this amazing? How about this, I want to try it again tonight. Don't you think that I'll still have a chance?" Li Shutong stared at the chessboard and didn't even look up as he said, "When I asked you to try again when you're young, you didn't dare to experience it again, and now, you are too old." "I'm only 20.7. said Lin Xiaoxiao. "The longer you have lived, the more painful experiences you have gone through," Li Shutong said. "After 20, your pains have gotten so much that it's impossible for you to get past the self-questioning stage. We always thought that our lives were painful when we were young, but as we get older, we will find out that there's a different type of pain still waiting for us. As Qin Chen came down, he still sat at a place far away from Li Shuthong. Li Shuthong felt like he couldn't hold it anymore. Although it's me who told him to pretend that we got in an argument, now I can't even find a person to play chess with me anymore. As he spoke, the broadcast voice sounded in prison 18, prisoner 010101, prisoner 002199, prisoner, have family visits today. Please follow prison guard 03 to your corresponding rooms. 010101 was Qin Chen's number. He was a little surprised. He had been here for a while now, and this was the first time someone came looking for him. So long that he even forgot about family visits in prisons. Lu Guangyi said to him, "Boss, today is visiting day, Qin Yan's probably here too." "Yeah," Qin Chen said as he stood up. He followed some 80 prisoners into a line, walking past the large metal gate and into a long hallway. The walls of the hallway were also made from metal. There were also 2 long strips of light on the ceiling, making it seem like a tunnel. Along the way, one prisoner said to another, "Han Ling Shan, your sister will be here, right? Remember to ask for pictures, alright? I'll need them tonight." The person named Han Lin Shan cursed, and if it wasn't because it was almost time to see their family again, they would have got into a fight. Despite being very noisy, the robots wouldn't care as long as they were still in line. Among them, Qin Chen was the only one that remained silent. Because no one dared to joke around with him, and the prisoners behind him even gave a little extra room. Going into the room, Qin Chen opened the door and saw a young man. The person's age is around 25 or 26 years old, and with his short hair, he looked very handsome. This must be Qin Yan. He wore a gray suit, and only his palm was made from a mechanical limb. But this must be one of the most delicate mechanical limbs he had seen yet. Every finger seemed to be carefully fitted, and beside every finger were lined with gold decorations. On the back of his hand was a ginkgo leaf pattern, much like some symbol of power in a gang. The ginkgo leaf was the Qin family's official symbol. After Qin Chen sat down, Qin Yan said to him coldly, "The second branch and fourth branch of the family already filed a complaint to the family tribunal and claimed that you provoked Li Shuthong on purpose, bringing his unnecessary hate to the family. We, the Qin family, aren't scared of Li Shuthong, but never did we intend to seek the Knights and the Han group as our enemy. I hope that you know what you are doing in prison 18 and stop causing more troubles for me." Qin Chen was a little surprised because from what he heard about Qin Yan from Lu Guangyi, he thought that Qin Yan was supporting him. But now, it looked like he was wrong. He thought about it and asked, "Is there anything else you want to say?" Qin Yan said coldly, "Have you thought about what kind of situation you are in right now? The other candidates all have supporters behind their backs, but you, and only you, don't. What made you think that you can fight against the other 8? This time, the second branch and fourth branch both seem to be very powerful. Be careful not to be sacrificed by the process. Listen to me, just finish your marriage with Kamadai Soren from the Kamadai family. One here, like before, is a Japanese family name. I found 2 ways to say the name in English. Kamadai or Camillo, I'm not 100% sure which one is correct, so if anyone knows, please just let me know in the comments or Discord, so that way, you will at least have some way in the Qin family. Qin Chen looked at the person in front of him indifferently, but his mind was turning quickly right now. What kind of opening is that? I have an arranged marriage in the inner world. And from the name itself, the girl doesn't seem to be Chinese either, right? Kamadai. It must be one of the 5 corporations. Qin Chen thought for a while and said, "I still want to give it a try." Qin Yan didn't seem to expect that Qin Chen still answered this way, so he straightened his shirt and said, "Whatever, I just wanted to warn you, even though the tribunal didn't make any comments toward this matter, don't expect the family to help you any further. We never intended for you to join the fight for the shadow anyway, and because of your stubbornness, you forcefully replaced the third branch's slot. If you can complete this task, then all would be good, but if you can't, then just wait for your release date. Fine by me, Qin Chen said as he was about to walk away. He had nothing else to say to this Qin family's descendant. Qin Yan was a little mad seeing so. Did you hear anything I just said? Qin Chen said to the robot guards outside, hello, we are done here. Wait. Qin Yan then calmed down and said, Kamadai Soren also came to visit you this time. You should at least meet her once, or else we can't even proceed with the marriage. Qin Chen, fine. Qin Yan went out, and after 5 minutes, another person came in. The person was a girl around 17 or 18 years of age. Her appearance wasn't perfect, but for some reason, she still gave a refreshing sense. The girl also wore a formal shirt and dress, making their first meeting seem very important. The girl didn't look very comfortable in this set of clothes, so she seemed to be unrestful. Looking at the girl, Qin Chen noticed a small mole on her nose and no makeup on her skin. The girl didn't even make any eye contact after taking her seat either, just slightly glancing at him and not talking after that. The two just sat there in silence. Until the broadcast announced that their time was over. The girl then said quietly. 2A translation of this text will come later as a part of the story, huh? Qin Chen was puzzled. The girl smiled and said, nothing. A robot guard brought Qin Chen away, and on the way back, Qin Chen thought to himself. Before when Lu Guangyi said that it was him who requested Lu Guangyi's help, he thought that Lu Guangyi might not have been told the truth either. That was why the Qin family only sent a retirement home fighter to assist him on such an important matter. Looks like he was already ditched by his family in the inner world before he even got here. But, what about this random marriage that just popped up out of nowhere? Be Nov calm. Chapter 47. Cyber City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boss, did Qin Yan tell you anything? Lu Guangyi quickly approached him after returning to prison 18. Nope, Qin Chen said with a shake of his head, just stick to the original plan. At this point, being left behind by his so-called family for the fight for the shadow wasn't significant enough to worry Qin Chen. Qin Chen didn't show a very firm attitude today because he felt it would be convincing when he actually became more powerful. The surprise he got from the breathing technique was only just the beginning. He was sure he couldn't walk properly the day before, but this morning, after a few hours of sleep, he felt even more nimble than before, with no sign of exhaustion. This was a wonderful feeling, something unheard of in the outer world. Lu Guangyi asked quietly, are you truly involved with Li Shuthong? Qin Chen glanced at him and said, yeah, but seeking outside help had never been a part of our plan, hasn't it? Yeah, Lu Guangyi said, boss, you still got me here. Night time. Countdown 5.59.59. City 18, District 7. Jiang Shui was slowly walking in the brightly lit city. For a person that came from the outer world, this type of setting was like a maze. As she looked up at the sky, she didn't see any smog, blue sky, nor clouds, but instead a network of metal products and neon lights. A 3D projected ad for a barbecue shop was spinning in mid-air. People could smell the freshly cooked synthetic meat and Chinese kebab from the wide-open shop. Suddenly, a robotic dolphin appeared out of nowhere and jumped up into the air, as if it just came out of the ocean. As it swam across the office buildings, its tail slashed countless water beads everywhere. As the wave of water fell, those who saw it for the first time might actually try to cover their heads with their hands. But as the water came down for 10 meters or so, it turned into a bright firework and faded away. At this time, a line of words appeared in the sky. Pomelo Mobile, offering the best holographic communication experience. There were countless bridges connecting the various buildings. From the ground looking up, it seemed as if there was a steel chain that tied the buildings up into a package. When Jiang Shui walked here, she came across many pedestrians of the inner world, and as everyone saw the cloud-shaped badge on her chest, the people all kept a safe distance from her. This was the Li family's symbol. She walked into a building's elevator and pressed button 32. The glass elevator quickly ascended up the building. As she looked down outside, buildings one after another appeared and disappeared from her sight, and there sometimes was even a floating car that zoomed past the elevator. The silver floating car was very aerodynamic. For jet engines replaced where the tires should be, blasting out a blue flame. Ding! She arrived on the 32nd floor. Walking out of the elevator, she walked across an open plaza toward the other side of the building, where her clinic was located. But before she could get there, someone stopped her and said politely, "Hello, Mrs. Jiang Shui." The person wore a clean suit, and on his tie was a delicate golden tie clip with a cloud symbol engraved on it. Not only so, behind the person were two more people each holding two mysterious black suitcases. Jiang Shui was a little surprised. This person was the Li Family Corporation representative that asked to invest in her company. His name was Zhang Tianjin. "Hi, how may I help you?" Jiang Shui asked softly. So, Zhang Tianjin said very respectfully, "Our company is very interested in our partnership with you, and as a token of gratitude, here is the newest and most technologically advanced version of our Li Family Corporation's mechanical arm. Not only that, but we also arranged a mechanical limb installation professional, who will assist you in a special training program." Jiang Shui felt that this was getting more and more strange. The time travelers from the outer world had been all telling her how evil the corporations were, but now that she actually met them, how come she felt like they were very easy to work with, investing in her clinic, giving her the best mechanical limbs, and hiring professionals to train her, almost as if they knew that she wouldn't know how to install this limb. She started to have some doubts. Then, Zhang Tianjin said suddenly, "I can tell that you are wondering why we are doing this for you, so please allow me to explain. 2 years ago, you helped a middle-aged woman, who happened to be one of the core members of the Li Family Corporation. She has sought you for 2 years now and recently got the news that you work here. These are here to thank you for your help." Not knowing what actually happened, Jiang Shui could only nod and said, Oh, I see. As for who the person she helped was, how in the world would she know? With this, Li Tongyun perfectly took advantage of the common weakness of all new time travelers who would have no way of knowing their past in the inner world. Also, she guessed that her mom wouldn't dare to ask around too much, since asking too much would get her exposed. At this point, Jiang Shui erased all her doubts and gladly accepted all the gifts, these two mechanical arms. Zhang Tianjin started to explain in detail, these are the most advanced in the market. Not only does it have high-powered hidden weapons, but it also has extensive battery life and 97% nerve connection rate. Thank you, this is exactly what I needed. Jiang Shui got even more excited. Countdown 00.30.00. Only half an hour left. In the gym area, Yi Wan was doing curl-ups with Qing Chen as a part of a 6-set training rotation to train his core muscles. After the core training, they would continue with precise cardio exercises. The night was long, and the training was rough. According to the time that Yi Wan planned, in about half an hour more of training, Qing Chen would move on to the next section. But the time for Qing Chen was split. 1 second he would be here training, and the next he would be back to the outer world. And after a certain number of days, he would be back here training again. By now, Li Shutong had also appeared in the gym area. He looked at Qing Chen and asked, "You'll be returning to the outer world soon, right?" "Yeah," Qing Chen nodded, "is there anything I need to do before then?" Li Shutong said, "No, I just want to see with my own eyes how you transmigrate to another world. Perhaps, I might even find some secrets during this process." "All right." Qing Chen was soaked in sweat. The beef that Yi Wan gave him to replenish him before the training was a great help. He had to admit that with the help from the breathing technique, he could recover a lot faster, but it was also hard on his energy. After a while of not eating, Qin Chen already felt hungry. Much like a Taotai, one Chinese mythical monster with the body of a goat and the face of a human, known to be giant and evil, he ate like crazy and trained like crazy. Qin Chen suddenly noticed a slight look of worry in Li Shudong's eyes. He asked curiously, "What's wrong, teacher?" So, Li Shudong said, "Can you bring over some more chess endgame plays from there?" Qin Chen stood there for 2 seconds and said with a smile, "Of course." At this moment, he felt that Li Shudong's sense as a leader faded a little and seemed much like an ordinary person. Under the looks of Yi Wan and Li Shudong, Qin Chen placed a flash drive in his mouth. Then he suddenly remembered something and took out the ball of gold strips from his pocket. Yi Wan said in awe, "I was wondering where the gold on Lu Guanyi's arm went." Li Shudong. Instantly, the fire patterns on Qin Chen's face started to spread out along his cheeks. He used that stream of air that he felt earlier to wrap around the gold in his palm. Li Shudong's face looked shocked upon seeing this. Countdown 10. The world turned dark. Chapter 48. The Scapegoat, Lu Dezhu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the night faded away, Qin Chen reappeared in his little apartment on Xingshu Road, still sweating. Despite the fact that it had only been a second, Qin Chen looked outside at the gloom, he already missed that dark prison. Qin Chen took out the flash drive from his mouth and took a look at his palm. The gold that he got from the inner world was still there in his hand. This was a remarkable discovery for him. It entailed that he could bring items back and forth between the two worlds much easier than others. Taking a look at his arm. Countdown 168.00.00. Another 7 days. Last time it was 7 days and now 7 days again, making the time traveler spent at the two places longer and longer. Is it possible that the time was extending longer with each consecutive visit? Could there possibly be a time where they would be stuck in one world for the rest of their lives? He didn't know the answer to these questions. Qin Chen smiled to himself. He didn't go to sleep but instead laid a blanket down on the ground, continuing his training as he would with Yi Wan. Although no one was looking after him anymore, he knew that the training was for his own improvement. Since he promised to train until 3 o'clock in the morning, he would persist even in the outer world. Taking a deep breath, he started the breathing technique, and the fire patterns on his cheeks revealed once again. No matter if it was in the outer world or the inner world, self-discipline was one's greatest freedom. Hold up, he forgot something very important. After training, Qin Chen sat on the floor, letting his sweat drip down. Opening his voice translator app, he repeated word for word what Kamadai Soren said to him. The Japanese the girl said very quietly made him feel like there must be some important information inside. Just like when you travel to a foreign country, the locals would use their language or a local dialect to curse you. Qin Chen repeated to his phone. Soon, the words were translated onto his screen. It's quite nice just sitting here in silence, but this teenager looks very handsome being silent. Qin Chen was frozen in place. What was this supposed to mean? Also, the Kamadai family speaks Mandarin in the inner world too, so why was she speaking Japanese? Is that to say she was a time traveler as well? Or did the Kamadai family continue to speak Japanese as a family tradition? If she was a time traveler, how come she could speak Mandarin so flawlessly? Surely there aren't many Japanese natives that know how to speak Mandarin, right? The next morning, Qin Chen woke up to the sound of his phone's buzzing notifications. He opened his WeChat and saw that it was Nangingchen, Qin Chen. Qin Chen. Qin Chen. Do you know how lucky Lu Dezhu was from the class beside us? Qin Chen was confused, but he still sat up immediately from his bed. What do you mean by that? Quick, come to the school, said Nangingchen. Qin Chen put on his blue and white school uniform. Before leaving the house, he didn't forget to check the mirror. and seeing that there were no more signs of him being starved, he left with no worries. As he got to the school, he saw that the classroom beside him was surrounded by students. Some dozen students were waiting outside class 4, waiting for something. "This way," said Nanjingchen on his tip-toes, waving his hand and trying to greet Qin Chen. Qin Chen squeezed in and asked, "What's happening here? Did you check today's trending searches?" Nanjingchen opened his Weibo. Then, with a look, he was shocked. A man, Mr. Jian, was on a business trip to Luo City from Sichuan, and accidentally became a time traveler, transmigrating into the prison 18 of the inner world. The person was identified as a time traveler in the inner world and was isolated in solitary confinement. He got there for 7 days and stayed there in that cell for 7 days. From what Mr. Jian told us, there is a time traveler who already became a bigwig in the prison. The person could enter and exit all parts of the prison freely, and there were supernatural beings obeying the person's orders. Mr. Jian is currently seeking this time traveler and is willing to pay or provide service to gain some degree of freedom in the prison. Qin Chen was shocked. He didn't expect that Jian Sheng would be brave enough to seek media support to find a solution. Looks like he must have gotten really bored in that cell for the past 7 days. But honestly speaking, he felt bad for Lu Dezhu and Jian Sheng. They got their status as time travelers, but all they could do was sit in a prison all day. The others all had different experiences in the inner world, experiencing the 3D visual effects on the streets, touring the cyber city, yet these two just got the experience of being imprisoned in a different place. If they could choose again, they probably wouldn't have chosen to transmigrate in the first place. Now, Qin Chen probably guessed why everyone wanted to gather in front of Lu Dezhu's class. Even if Lu Dezhu still hadn't got to the school yet, they would still be willing to wait. The last time he got back from the inner world, he admitted that he got in prison 18 and talked to Li Shuthong. Then when the classmates asked him for more details, he just said the rest were secrets. The more he was unwilling to share, the more that everyone was curious about. Then, everyone guessed that Lu Dezhu must have found a way to obtain some methods from Li Shuthong to become a supernatural being. After these classmates saw the news about Jian Sheng, they immediately thought of Lu Dezhu. In the minds of these people, there wouldn't be anyone else that could have done this except for Lu Dezhu. As the search got on the leaderboard, there was one student who commented, "My classmate said that he was a time traveler and has recently gotten support from Li Shuthong." Before that, Jian Sheng's search ranking was only around 40-ish places, but after the comment, it immediately jumped to the top 10. And the number was still rapidly increasing. In the eyes of the public, other than mysterious people like He Xiaoxiao, there weren't many known supernatural beings. More critically, Li Shuthong was mentioned, who in He Xiaoxiao's video, was said to be the most possible route to become a supernatural being. So after the people saw this comment, they simultaneously thought that Lu Dezhu must be that time traveler in Jian Sheng's report. Just as everyone was busy chatting, Lu Dezhu arrived at the school. As he turned and saw the crowd of people in front of his class, his face instantly turned pale. "What is all this about?" Everyone was disappointed. Looks like the person himself still didn't know what's going on. "Did you not see the trending search today?" "Even if you didn't see the search, you should at least check your phone," said one of the students. "There is a person called Jian Sheng who claimed to have seen you in prison 18. He wants to meet with you and ask you to get him out of solitary confinement." Lu Dezhu felt that his mind was about to explode. He got put in prison for 7 days, and only now could he sleep on his soft bed for a night. In the morning, he woke up late and didn't even check his phone before riding his bike to school. He took out his phone and checked out what they were talking about. Except, he felt like there was something wrong. According to Jian Sheng, that mysterious person asked him a few questions alone in a cell. He knew that he had never done that. So, in prison 18, there was someone other than Jian Sheng in him who actually got power, and he was just a scapegoat. "Please, whoever you are, get me out of that prison, too." At this point, Lu Dezhu wanted to cry. He wanted to deny his identity, but the news had already spread like wildfire. Lu Dezhu gave it a try, so, I don't think I'm the right person that Jian Sheng was talking about. There's someone else. One of the classmates questioned him. We asked if there are more transmigrators in prison 18 yesterday, and you said there weren't any. He said that before he transmigrated, but for him, it had been a week since he said that. Looking at this, Qin Chen felt that it would be quite convenient if Lu Dezhu kept attracting all his attention. But he does have to find a way to solve this problem. Maybe ask Li Shuthong to transport them into a different prison. As he was thinking, 4 cars from the local news station arrived at the school, and the reporters dashed toward the school as soon as the cars came to a stop. The 2 security guards stationed outside the school attempted to stop them, but there were simply too many of them. When Qin Chen noticed this, he headed back to his class, pulling Nan Gingchen behind him. Someone might recall his face if he was seen on TV, causing him unnecessary grief. Chapter 49. Gangsters, you are listening at novelfull.audio. How come we have to leave now? I wanted to hear what Lu Dezhu is going to say. Nan Gingchen complained. Qin Chen glanced at him and said, what for? It's not as if you are a time traveler. It's useless listening to him. Feeling exposed, Nan Gingchen paused for a moment and said, these are some rare first-hand accounts of the stories from the inner world. What if we actually get to transmigrate one day? We might find it useful. Not interested, said Qin Chen casually. Transmigration is so fun, said Nan Gingchen, if we can both get to the inner world, there's a chance that we might become a supernatural being or perhaps get some mechanical limbs and become superhuman. Qin Chen. In the end, the reporters got stopped by a large group of teachers before entering the building. The school was built for learning, and in no way could outsiders disrupt this environment. Just as the first class ended, a figure quietly jumped over the school fence and came in. He found a random student on the school field and asked, where is class 4 of the high school second years? The student was stunned by the person's strong Sichuan accent but still pointed at where the class was. The middle-aged man thanked him and went to the building. Now, Lu Dezhu was just returning from the teacher's office, and before other students could surround him, one person came up first and said, you are Lu Dezhu, right? I'll get you all the money you need, just please talk to Li Shuthong, and ask him to set me free, all right? It took a while for everyone to realize what was going on. But it only took 1 second of silence to make this classroom seem abruptly different from the noisy school surroundings. He's Jian Sheng. He's still in Luo City. Quick, get the teacher. Some students started yelling. After his planned business trip here, Jian Sheng didn't leave Luo City, because he still had some more matters to finish. When he saw the comment on Weibo this morning, he came straight to Luo City Foreign Language School. In fact, he wasn't sure if Lu Dezhu would be of any help, but since everyone was saying so. He stood in front of the classroom door and said, which one of you is Lu Dezhu? One person pointed, and Lu Dezhu, realizing that things weren't going well for him, was about to run off in another direction. Jian Sheng rushed up to him and said in a hurry, I know that you are powerful in prison 18, that supernatural being who interrogated me even stood behind you. Lu Dezhu didn't know what to do, that's not me. You got the wrong person. Kid, have no worries, I promise, I won't harm you. As Jian Sheng was speaking, 2 teachers pulled him out of the classroom, I'll pay. In the hallway, Jian Sheng's yell still echoed around the classrooms as the students turned to look at Lu Dezhu. Lu Dezhu was about to collapse. He never would have thought that his little lie would bring him so many troubles. Honestly, what he wanted to do the most right now was to find the identity of the 3rd prisoner who was in prison 18. He wanted to know who would get him into such a scapegoat position. At this very moment, the person that got him all this was sitting in the classroom right next to him as if all the commotion outside had nothing to do with him. He saw that Nan Gingchen took out a computer science textbook and asked, why are you suddenly interested in this? No, nothing, said Nan Gingchen, I just like to learn something that I can use later. Say, shouldn't we attempt to get close to Lu Dezhu so that when we get to the inner world, we'll at least be able to find a friend there? There's no need for that, replied Qing Chen, I'm not a time traveler anyway. Now he started thinking. He knew that Lu Dezhu was faking it before, but time travelers like Nan Gingchen wouldn't know. Now that there were probably a total of more than 10,000 time travelers around the country, is it possible if Lu Dezhu's background in the inner world would attract them all to Luo City? Because it seemed obvious to find some reliable companions in the inner world. He Xiao even suggested in his videos for people to play this in a small group, but a stupid teammate and a reliable one would make a big difference. But there was still one thing that Qing Chen couldn't understand. So much had happened here today, so how come the people from Kunlun still hadn't shown up yet? Are they not interested in Li Shutong's methods? Of course, they are interested. There must be something that's happening. Until self-study that night, Qing Chen still didn't see Kunlun's appearance. He had a hunch that something would happen but had no idea what it was. 9:20 p.m. High school second years and third years all rushed out of the school. The school buildings lit under the streetlights were beautiful in a unique way. The students in school uniforms chatted along the way as they walked back home. One student got on his bike and waved goodbye to his classmates, then dashing into the darkness. There's a girl that stood in front, and a boy behind her deliberately fooled around with his other friends trying to grab her attention. This seems to be the norm among teenagers. As Lu Dezhu left his classmates, he rode his bike toward Xinglong Garden. Remembering what happened this morning, he felt wronged, but he couldn't do anything about it. As he crossed Yellow River Street, he felt something odd. A black van quickly approached him. He glanced at the van and saw that the people sitting in the front row both wore sunglasses, and the one on the passenger seat was even turning to look at him. Shit! Lu Dezhu thought to himself. Just as both of them were about to go under a bridge that didn't have security cameras installed. The person driving the black van suddenly turned the steering wheel, trying to crash the van into Lu Dezhu. He quickly rode the bike onto the sidewalk, but to his surprise, the van also drove onto the sidewalk, flipping over Lu Dezhu and his bike. The tires made a sharp noise with the ground and soon came Lu Dezhu's scream. Be no calm, the van stopped tilted on the sidewalk, and the door opened. Two people came down the van as a man's cold voice sounded from behind, be quick, bring him up. The two men with dark sunglasses came for Lu Dezhu without hesitation. The two seemed so muscular that they looked like those gangsters from Hong Kong movies. Most importantly, Lu Dezhu saw very clearly that these two men all had mechanical limbs installed on them. Help! Lu Dezhu screamed for his life. Instantly, a sharp, blinding light came from behind, shining on everyone. The roaring of a car engine approached like a metal beast cruising on the asphalt. Crash! A black SUV aggressively smashed head first onto the van from behind. The van got flipped over and rolled to the side. The face of the two gangsters changed, and they both dashed toward the black SUV as two long knives flipped out from their mechanical arms. But, before they could get close to the SUV, a blurry figure jumped down from the bridge that was 6 meters 120 feet above the ground. Someone had been waiting for them this whole time. The figure fell as fast as a bolt of lightning. Before any of the gangsters could react, it was already on top of them. The metal legs stepped on top of the gangsters' shoulders and squashed them to the ground. Blue sparks flickered, and as the gangsters' mechanical limbs got smashed to pieces, the electronic parts also fell out from inside. The figure that had fallen from the sky turned to ask Lu Dezhu, "Are you okay?" "Nice to meet you. I'm Kunlun's leader, Chen Yuandong."